Hello guys, today I wanted to talk with you about Major League Baseball. So, it's been recently announced after a 99-day lockout because of a labor contract dispute that Major League Baseball will now resume on April 7th with some changes to the uniforms. So, there will now be advertisements on there'll be patches on jerseys, and there'll be decals on the back of helmets. So Major League Baseball, after 150 years nearly of being an organization, sports organization, will now be containing advertisements on the uniforms themselves. And of course, this coincides a growing trend in sports. So the NBA, of course, they introduced ads on jerseys back in 2017, and it's increased their profitability, certainly. Now the Major League Baseball is going to get involved, and so corporate sponsorship, corporate naming rights has been one of the more prominent things that we've noticed in sports in the last decade or so, which is the naming of stadiums and bowl games and events after specific brands, or even the Super Bowl halftime show becomes the Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show. So there are 30 Major League Baseball teams, 30, and only 8 of those teams have stadiums that have no naming sponsorship. So there's only 8 stadiums out of 30 that are named after something other than a corporation. That doesn't have, only 8 of those teams don't have some kind of naming contract. So this is a growing trend in sports, and it's fascinating that this is finally happening, and why they're doing it, and how this is going to affect the sport at large, because it will affect the politics of Major League Baseball going forward. And it's not like we haven't seen this in recent years, as Progressive buys the naming rights to the Cleveland Indians just a few years back, and suddenly the Cleveland Indians is now an offensive name that needs to be replaced with, I don't know what. I don't even know what they're called. I live in Ohio, and I don't even know what they're called. All I know is I'm no longer a baseball fan. Certainly not, at least not a Cleveland Indians fan, but because they're not a team anymore. So, but anyway, so what you have with advertising is, the advertising at its core is the corporations being able to decide what lives or dies based on where they spend their advertising money. So once you start taking that ad money, then you become, to some extent, a client of a corporation, of some brand who you represent. So if you're Major League Baseball and you're expanding your ad contracts in order to expand profitability, then yeah, you're going to now be subject to politics that you weren't subject to before, because before, when your revenue stream was a larger percentage based on ticket sales and concessions or whatever, then you don't have to rely so much on the autocratic viewpoints of opinions and viewpoints. So when you have a corporation, they will then impose their viewpoints on the baseball. So advertising is, of course, a powerful arm and tool within media. Its integration in media is very clear, but it's just that it's a I believe it's going to be a dark presence within organized sports here, and it's had a negative. So this only leaves the NFL as the last team or the last professional sports organization that doesn't do these ads on jerseys. Every other major sports league does. So and it's just that with advertising taking up a larger portion of these organizations' budgets, an organization as a sports league, which is still it's a company with its own right. It has to be able to make a profit, and it has a CEO basically. So yeah, like these companies, as advertising takes a bigger role in the budget of Major League Baseball and their revenue stream, you're going to see more and more corporate ideology seep into baseball, and you're going to see whoever gives whoever does the most advertising with Major League Baseball is going to start to wield their viewpoint against them. So it's only a matter of time for whatever remaining meaning behind baseball that was specific to American culture and American values will slowly be morphed away and separated from and gravitate more towards whatever values that these companies have that advertise there. So again, it's just whoever you take ad money from, they slowly control your message, and you begin to self-censor, and it's the same thing with YouTube and what's happening with YouTube over the years. When I started using it, and when it was fresh and new about 10-15 years ago, advertising didn't have as much of sway. Advertising didn't play in here as much, and we had much more freedom on the platform, and it was a better platform, despite the fact of having weaker content. The platform was more democratic, and I feel like we lost something with that on YouTube. Advertising poisons every creative industry, whatever it may be. So that's just the world we live in. It's a capitalist system. But what comes with advertising comes the politics that these corporations collectively hold. And they collectively hold the same values, generally speaking, even if they're left wing or right wing. I mean, there really is no difference in the corporate mindset when it comes to profit above all else. So, thank you guys.